Invincible Mumu. By Han Jung-Wheelia. Chapter 22. The Final Test. Part 1. GMCOIL, although he is just 30 years old, he's called a great swordsman in Murim. In his early days at the Heavenly Martial Arts Academy, he was the second-ranked student, and his talent was recognized by everyone. Because of the test he devised, GMCOIL was appointed as the final test supervisor this year. The test was called the Crossroads of Choice by GMCOIL. Keek. The test taker who opened the door and then looked around couldn't hide his confusion. When he came in, he saw two paths. At the first path stood GMCOIL, the test supervisor, and at the second stood a large man wearing a demon mask holding an iron stick. A deep puddle was behind the large man, with a girl trapped in a cage suspended above it. What is this? To answer the curious test taker's question, GMCOIL said, "Welcome to the final test." "Ah, yes." The test taker politely bowed his head to the man who looked like the supervisor. So GMCOIL slightly bowed back and said, "The final test is one that respects the candidate's choice." "Sorry? What do you mean?" "You just need to choose one of the two." "Choice in what sense?" "It's like this, the candidates who pass the first and second tests are qualified to attend the academy. So all I'm doing is providing them a choice." After that, the candidate looked at both paths. There was no further explanation, so he kept looking at them, and he thought that the second path looked difficult. However, hasty judgments couldn't be made. "Supervisor, what about the first path?" "It's simple. I'll be wearing this acceptance certificate over my head, and with my eyes covered, I will be standing in the middle of the path." "Acceptance certificate?" "Yes. Take your certificate to pass. As I count to 5, I'll be standing here with my eyes covered. And after exactly 5 seconds, I will remove the covering from my eyes." "And what if I can't take it in time?" "You can still obtain the certificate, but only if you can endure 5 attack formations against me." At those words, the test taker looked interested. Judging by the distance, it seemed easy to use the light body method to take the certificate. With that, it really looked like the final test was a free pass. This is easy. There was no need to think. He was going to choose the first path. But since he was curious about the second path, he asked, "And the second path, sir?" "Simple. You need to rescue the girl who was captured by that warrior of the forces of evil. However, after a certain amount of time, that rope will break, so if you can't rescue her within that time limit, you won't be able to pass." It sounded simple, but compared to the past tests, the second path was difficult. If that warrior wasn't defeated within the set time frame, rescuing the girl would be impossible. Did the test takers have to go on such an adventure? After thinking that, his choice came out without hesitation. "I choose the first path." That's a good choice, but whether it's the first or the second path, there's a rule that you have to follow." "Sorry? What is it?" "You must never speak." "Speak?" "Right. You will be eliminated regardless of your result if you utter even a single word before the test is over. Keep that in mind." Yes. It wasn't a difficult condition, because no one would need to utter anything during the test. So the candidate confidently moved towards the first path. As he moved, Supervisor GMCOIL covered his eyes. "Then, let's start now." The moment the candidate was going to take the first quick step, a sight that shocked him appeared. What? The iron cage behind the large man was slowly falling into the puddle. It seemed like there was some kind of misunderstanding. The problem, however, was that the girl was unable to speak and couldn't move. At that moment, GMCOIL said, 1. The countdown began. In an instant, the candidate became confused. If it wasn't for that one rule, he would have shouted and asked them to help the girl, but he would fail if he did that. And if he ignored it and took the test, the cage would sink right into the water. 2. If he runs now, he has a chance of passing the test. But if he did that, he wasn't sure what would happen to the trapped girl. Damn it. However, he was now in the final test, and it was an opportunity that couldn't be missed. Besides, if he didn't defeat that warrior in the demon mask, then he wouldn't pass the second path. Confused, the test taker was unsure of what to do. Because of the pressure he was feeling and the torment of being unable to choose a path, he could no longer hear the supervisor's voice. 5. And then, the supervisor removed his eye covering. Until then, the candidate was unable to choose a path. While looking at the candidate, GMCOIL said, "Test failed." "Sorry?" The candidate was shocked by those words. And while looking at him, the supervisor spoke in a cold tone. Seeing that iron cage falling slowly and looking at the girl unable to talk, "If you stayed still, then you don't deserve to be admitted into the academy." What do you mean? Grick. The candidate saw that the iron cage, which was half submerged in the water, rose upwards. And the girl waved at him with a smile. For a moment, he felt disappointed. No way. It wasn't an accident. It was the intended situation, and he was the one who couldn't make a decision. Confused, the candidate tried to protest. "Is I sent this too much? If you were going for this, why make it a choice? Didn't I tell you?" "Yes?" "You had 5 seconds to take the certificate on this side, or you could take the second path and save the girl before getting your certificate." "No. How could you expect me to choose in such a situation where I would be eliminated if I spoke?" GMCOIL looked at the candidate with a slight grin. "You're a funny one." The options were varied. The distance between me and you can be covered within 5 seconds, and once you took the certificate, you could have reported it to me, right? That. And you're definitely lacking something. Lacking? If you really were concerned about her, then you should have run there without thinking. Well, regardless, this is the outcome. At those words, the candidate was flustered. The supervisor was right. When a person was in danger, he went still, neither choosing himself or the girl. GMCOIL spoke calmly, pointing to the door he should leave out of. "I don't even like looking at you now. Hurry up and leave." The candidate shrugged and then walked out. Seeing that, GMCOIL clicked his tongue. The real purpose of the test was to identify the warrior spirits in judgment. At least a logical person would have done what he said, and a kind person would choose the second path despite the outcome. This is a difficult one. I'm glad that I didn't have this test when I joined. He turned his head at the voice. There stood Tang Soso, the assistant of the second test supervisor. GMCOIL clicked his tongue. This isn't difficult. The second path is practically impossible to complete, but making a choice almost guarantees a pass. That's all? However, in a situation where there's someone to save, you will experience the pressure of dealing with a super master. GMCOIL smiled at those words. He was enjoying the situation. It's not a bad one. Anyone who was in the middle of such a situation would fall into confusion. Perhaps they'd be stunned. It wasn't easy to fight a warrior and ensure that the hostage doesn't sink. Tang Soso stuck her tongue out. There seemed to be more failures here than the second test. SOSO, there are successful ones here too, more than you think. Here? Yes. GMCOIL remembered 2 people. Hong Hairyung, the descendant of the southern sword of the emperor. As if choosing the second path wasn't enough, she was better than the warrior in the demon mask. The test was supposed to put them through despair, but she overcame it. However, she was unable to save the girl. Regardless, the test's purpose was achieved, so she was accepted. The Eastern River Blade Master's disciple was interesting too. Young Chen chose the first path. By the time GMCOIL counted to 2, he had snatched the certificate, but then he unexpectedly ran towards the water. He was blocked by the warrior in the demon mask, but he tried to defeat the man without the slightest bit of hesitation. Both of them showed better results than anyone else. However, the Eastern River Blade Master's disciple is a bit behind the Child of the Southern Sword, but he was great. He could see why the others, too, wanted to be supervisors of the tests. They wanted to see different aspects of the candidates. Satisfied, he smiled then asked, "But, why are you here?" "Now you're asking?" "I was going to ask the office to help me fill the lake with water, all thanks to one test taker." "Fill the lake?" "Yes. One candidate used force to move across the water, leading to it spilling out, and now, the lake is only 2/3 full." "What? He used flying above water?" GMCOIL frowned. This wasn't a technique that test takers of this age could use. The only one who could use it around there would be Supervisor Ka Yu Hang. Thinking that it was strange, GMCOIL asked, "By any chance, is that candidate the one called Mumu who ripped the first test skates?" How did you know?" "Yun Namkyung told me about it." "Ah. Come to think of it, Yun Namkyung was the assistant for the first test, and he too went to ask for the office's help." "Well, Supervisor GM, I'm in a hurry, so I'll leave first." After she left, GMCOIL stroked his chin. He dismissed what Yun Namkyung had told him. However, the same thing happened in the second test too, and now he was curious. He's Yu Jinsung's brother, right? He heard that he was a talented person. But this one didn't feel the same. It felt suspicious that one child halted 2 tests. And if this was being done intentionally, then he couldn't forgive the kid. If you're doing this on purpose, be prepared, kid. This test was different from the previous ones. It can't be passed with brute strength alone, unlike the first 2. After an hour or so, GMCOIL clicked his tongue as he saw the back of the student called Harayan, who leisurely took his certificate. This kid was different from the other test takers. And his skill wasn't the only different thing. Cool-headedness? He was a little surprised that this kid took the certificate after just 2 counts. It was because his speed was almost equal to Young Chun's. However, the kid started to leave as soon as he took the certificate. So GMCOIL asked, "Why didn't you tell me that the cage was falling into the water? Wasn't that planned? You also told me not to talk." "What? And even if it was a real accident, it's not my responsibility to deal with it, it's the supervisor and the academy's responsibility." Since he said that, GMCOIL couldn't talk back. Although the purpose wasn't met, there was truth in those words. He didn't break the rules. However, his thoughts were different from the others. He soured my mood. Since the kid passed, he decided to keep an eye on him. But he had noticed that the kid's hand was hurt. His palm was swollen, and it had purple cracks in it too. And when he asked if it was fine before the test started, the kid showed strong displeasure. Did something happen? He was puzzled, but the next test taker came in, and the preparations for the test were done. He didn't like how this one walked all over while looking around. The test taker's face had a rare handsomeness, but their expression was simple. GMCOIL asked, "Name of the candidate?" "Me? Mumu." Mumu. His eyes narrowed at that. He's Yu Jinsung's brother who messed up the first and second tests, right? Finally, he got to meet him. I'll see what kind of person you are. If he really turned out to be a troublemaker, then he'd bring him in line. And this test was different from the others. The warrior disguised as a member of the forces of evil was at the supermaster level. And fighting him wouldn't end too well for the kid. Welcome to the final test. This is the final test that respects the choice of the candidates. He explained everything like he did for the previous kids. Through the test, the candidate's nature could be found out. He gave Mumu the choice. Which path will you choose? Mumu titled his head at the question and then walked over to the first path. Seeing that, GMCOIL smiled. Right. Indeed. He understood it. Anyone would want an easy way in. However, this was a psychological test. GMCOIL took out the eye covering. And when Mumu reached the first path, he put the covering on and shouted. 1. He covered his eyes, but he was aware of everything that was going to happen. The iron bars were going to sink. And then the real test would start. But he didn't know whether Mumu would take the first or second path. Kwang. At that moment, a great roar echoed in GMCOIL's ears. It was the sound of the ground breaking. What was that? A scream. Yuk. Kwang. Another roar. That time it was the sound of something crashing into a wall. What? What was that sound? 2. GMCOIL shouted. Before he got to 3, he heard a series of sounds he couldn't identify. Kwang. Wait. What you are doing now? Swoosh. Rumble. Thud. The sound of something falling to the ground, as well as the ground's vibration. It was difficult to know what was going on. 3. He was going crazy because of his curiosity, so he just counted. Pack. And then he felt the certificate on his head come off. Frustrated, not knowing what happened, he took the eye covering off. GMCOIL was stunned by what he saw. Did I pass? In Mumu's hand was the iron cage. Whoa. The girl who was locked in the cage was holding the bars with a pale face. She seemed severely motion sick. What happened? He couldn't understand or even guess anything. Was the kid in such a hurry to complete the test that he brought the iron cage with him? Crazy. What a thought. Wait, what happened to the warrior in the demon mask then? GMCOIL turned towards where he heard a groan from. Why Yaman? The warrior in the demon mask, No Yaman, who was helping out in this test, groaned in pain since he had just smashed into a wall. Chapter 23. The Final Test. Part 2. A room located on the first floor of the main building. On a chair close to a desk was someone wearing a white mask with an antique pattern on it. The name of the person whose age, face, and gender couldn't be determined is Baek Woo-ji. He's known as Ghostface among Murim people, and he's a member of the audit committee and a 6-person special education department. Among the committee and department, he's the oldest and the longest-standing member. And since the people of the audit committee were from the most prestigious families, they were called the Heavenly Upbringing members. However, he isn't just famous in Murim, but it isn't because of a grand title like that. It's because the 4 great warriors respect him. Moreover, Baek Woo-ji was staying at the academy with this thought and sense of duty in mind. Nurture the new talents who will come to protect Murim. He was currently in his office because he took over as the general inspector in charge of this year's entrance tests. And something quite troubling happened. On the other side of the desk was a large man with bandages and splints all over his body. He suffered a major accident and seemed to have a broken arm and a neck injury. He was a teacher, Baek Yaman, who was assisting with the final test. After a moment of silence, a man in his mid-20s who was next to Baek Woo-ji spoke. What, this too is because of that Mumu kid? The man who asked that was Oh Song-yoon. He was an aide to Baek Woo-ji, a member of the committee. Oh Song-yoon, who was helping him, was just as confused as Baek Yaman. Again? Just a little while ago, Yun Namkyang asked for help saying that 3 gates were torn off, and then came Tang Soso saying that water was needed and that the test couldn't proceed. And this was the 3rd request. Isn't this too much? Director, I really think this Mumu character is intentionally doing this. At those words, Baek Yaman frowned and asked. What do you mean? Does teacher Baek not know? All 3 entrance tests were delayed, thanks to Mumu. And because of that, the test takers are complaining like crazy. Is that true? This was a first for Baek Yaman. Oh Song-yoon said that the tests were delayed, and the students who wanted to take the tests were complaining. No, if it's this level of damage, then it has to be intentional, right? I don't know how great that candidate is, but this is too much. Isn't it necessary for the organizers to take disciplinary action or something? The Heavenly Martial Arts Academy trains righteous people. If they do nothing about this, they'd be forgetting that. Those were examples of the test takers' complaints. The situation was bad, and the test schedule was significantly delayed. Then Oh Sung-yeon clicked his tongue and spoke to director Baek Woo-ji. "Sir, this isn't something that will just go away. Even if he passed all of the tests, he has a personality problem." Isn't this academy a place where people are taught righteousness? If a test taker has a personality problem and is causing issues intentionally, they should be disciplined appropriately or be denied admission. At his words, Baek Woo-ji rested his chin on his hands. It wasn't an unreasonable opinion. In fact, among all of the Heavenly Martial Arts Academy graduates, a few were exceptionally talented, but then they walked down the wrong path. And because of that, the academy had suffered a great deal of damage a few times. Teacher Baek Yeon spoke to Baek Woo-ji. "Director, please speak. It didn't seem like he had a personality problem to me." "He didn't have a personality problem? He just looked a little naive." "Naive?" "Yes, he seemed naive, but it's wrong to reject such a talented individual who passed the 3 tests without even learning martial arts. What would you like me to do? If you're concerned that he has a personality problem, how about you talk to the child and judge him yourself? If you really think that there's a problem with him, at least watch him and then make that decision. Such an unfortunate child." Baek Yeon was hit and hurt by him, but seeing the boy's muscles, he actually wanted to teach him. A child who had trained his body to such a degree was an amazing sight to see. Just the thought of teaching him thrilled Yeon. And rejecting such a child just because they were overly cautious didn't sit well with him. In any case, he said what he wanted to. And the decision rested with the director, who was in charge of the entrance tests. "Director?" After thinking for a moment, Director Baek Woo-ji opened his mouth. "First of all, we need to resume the tests which were halted as soon as possible. And we'll make a decision on Mumu's admission through a direct interview later." That evening, Moilwa grabbed Mumu's head harshly. She was pissed. "This kid, you did all of that on purpose, right? Right?" Thanks to Mumu, all of the tests were delayed by a few hours, and Moilwa had to suffer the wait. That was why as soon as she saw Mumu, she pounced. However, Mumu couldn't get hurt by her strength. Rather than feeling pain, he was bothered by her breasts which were touching him. If one doesn't train their body often, do they become this soft? Mumu thought deeply about it and felt sorry for her. Yu Yip-kyung, who was a gentleman, never explained the differences between men and women to Mumu. Instead, he had Mumu stay in shape by cutting wood. Seeing that, Jin Hyuk, who was unaware of what Mumu was thinking, clicked his tongue. Is he enjoying himself? While he thought that, Moilwa was still trying to squeeze Mumu's head, and then Jin Hyuk, who was now embarrassed, turned away. He wasn't sure if he would meet another woman so free-spirited. To put it simply, there was no way that a civil servant's daughter should act like this. After those thoughts, Jin Hyuk decided to ask. By the way, is this fine? You were asked to wait here alone. Most of the test takers who passed were given temporary rooms. However, Mumu alone was asked to wait in another room. But no specific reason was given, so there was room for speculation. Since he messed with all 3 tests and delayed them, it would be weird if they left him alone. If it was one test, then they would consider it an accident. But it was all of the tests. As a result, everything was delayed, including the introductory ceremony, which was supposed to be held today but was postponed until tomorrow. And as one would expect, the test takers and other people complained. TCH. Jin Hyuk wanted to say a lot. Couldn't Mumu have restrained himself? No one would overlook a situation where all 3 tests were delayed because of one person. He passed with that absurd strength, but he's going to fail here? He wasn't sure if he was happy or sad about that. Thinking that, Jin Hyuk said, "Don't do anything, and tell the supervisors." Huh? That it wasn't on purpose. At those words, Moilwa smiled and asked. Before, you were saying that it didn't matter if he failed, but now you're worried? It isn't like that. What? You are brothers, right? Sigh. It isn't like that, and don't look at me with that expression. When Mumu made a face that asked, are you worried about me? Jin Hyuk suddenly left the room. Seeing that, Moilwa grinned. He's shy. Ilwa. Huh? What? You want me to leave? No chance. No, it's not about that. Maybe you should try to train your chest muscles? What the fuck was he talking about? Moilwa, who was confused, turned beet red and shouted. You are. Knock. That was when someone knocked on the door. The door opened, and a young man, Oh Song-yoon, the aide, appeared. And while looking at Mumu with a disgusted face, Oh Song-yoon asked. Are you the test taker, Mumu? Me? Yes. How could he look so innocent yet cause the entire entrance test to be delayed? It had to be a fake expression. You have a meeting with the director now. Please follow me. In an indoor hall with lanterns lighting it up. There was a man wearing a white mask waiting for someone. It was Baek Woo-ji. Mumu, who was guided by Oh Song-yoon, entered the hall. And Mumu's expression brightened when he saw the equipment and weapons in there. He looked like a child discovering a new toy. Seeing Mumu's eyes, Baek Woo-ji thought. Surprising. He had a preconceived notion that the kid was nasty, but he was handsome and looked different from his brother. Actually, he looks nothing like his brother. Baek Woo-ji had taught Yu Jin-sung. And these two brothers didn't look alike, but he could feel their kindness through their eyes. Baek Woo-ji, who was trying to find out what happened during the entrance test, was a bit puzzled. Bow. While Baek Woo-ji was thinking, Mumu bowed his head and said hello. Hello. Baek Woo-ji's mouth twitched at the simple greeting. But after calming himself, he said. Do you know why we put your admission on hold? At that question, Mumu apologized. I heard that the other test takers were troubled because of me. I'm really sorry. He said that with a sincere expression and voice. Looking at that, Baek Woo-ji knew that the kid didn't do it intentionally. However, making a decision based on his expression was wrong. I need to look at his actual self to find out the truth. Baek Woo-ji, who stared at him, said. The goal of this academy is to nurture outstanding talents with a sense of justice in line with the will of the warriors who founded it. Did you know that? No, I didn't. Honestly. Talents were produced in keeping with this tradition, and many people want to enter this place because of its reputation. That sounds about right. Mumu did see the thousands of people gathered at the entrance. After Mumu said that, Baek Woo-ji continued to speak. Unlike the average admission, many people come to ours, and sometimes we run into problems because of that. What do you mean? No matter how well we test potential students, it's difficult to identify those who harbor malicious intent. After saying that, Baek Woo-ji pointed to the center of Mumu's chest. And Mumu asked, those who harbor malicious intent? That just means those who might deviate from the right path and choose the wrong one. When he understood that, Mumu nodded his head and said, my father taught me to act as a man should, and I try to do so, but sometimes accidents happen because of my mistakes. It was something Mumu always felt bad about. Whenever an accident happened, he felt like he was violating his father's teachings. Seeing Mumu with a gloomy expression, Baek Woo-ji narrowed his eyes. What was your purpose in taking the entrance test and trying to enter this academy? Baek Woo-ji frequently interviewed kids who wanted to enter the academy. And most of their responses were the same. I came here to inherit the will of the academy by following righteousness and justice. I came here to get the best teaching and become the best. Most of them spit out pretentious words in order to do well in the interview. But in reality, what they wanted was simple. Receiving the best teaching was good, but most kids only wanted to gain fame by graduating from here. Perhaps Mumu too had the same reason. I'd appreciate it if you were honest. Honest? Yes. Mumu, who hesitated for a second, spoke. What I say here will be kept a secret, right? What an odd kid, and what a strange question to ask in this situation. After taking a deep breath, Baek Woo-ji said, Yes, I promise. Really? I promise you in my honor. At that, Mumu scratched the back of his head and said, I accidentally broke someone's arm. And since I did that, I came here to fix what I did there. Whose arm did you break? Moilseo's arm. The son of the Minister of Criminal Affairs. Huh. At those words, Baek Woo-ji couldn't understand it. He thought there would be some huge secret behind him trying to join, but this kid was forced to. And when he felt disappointed that there was no particular reason, he heard. And because of this. What did this mean? Baek Woo-ji couldn't hide his curiosity. Then, Mumu grabbed something that was hanging from his neck and hidden beneath his shirt and pulled it out. It was a necklace with a jade plaque on it that was circular and flat. And this was engraved on it. Mumu. Mumu? It was the test taker's name. Mumu turned it around, and on the back was an unusual pattern in 2 lines drawn across a triangle. While frowning, Baek Woo-ji looked at the pattern. It was a pattern he had surely seen somewhere, but he couldn't remember where. To him, Mumu said, This is what I was wearing when my father picked me up in the woods when he was in exile. You aren't the real son of Yu Yip-kyung? According to the reports, he heard that the real brother of Yu Jin-sung was taking the entrance test. However, Mumu shook his head and said, No. I was adopted. It made sense that he's adopted. He thought that it was weird how Mumu didn't look like his brother. Mumu then put the jade plaque back beneath his shirt and continued. I'm grateful to my father for raising me, and I didn't say it out loud because he would worry, but I'm curious. About what? My real parents. I like my father, but I've never seen or met them, so I'm curious about them. Mumu ruffled his hair as if he was embarrassed about saying that out loud. This image of Mumu crushed Baek Woo-ji's heart. And he asked in the softest voice possible. And what does that have to do with joining this place? It's said that those who graduate from here with high grades become famous. Mumu found it strange that Yu Jin-sung was mentioned everywhere. Everyone knew his name, despite never meeting him. And with that thought in mind, he truly decided to join this academy. I wondered if my parents who abandoned me would come back if I became famous. Originally, Yu Yip-kyung gave Mumu the name Eugene Hak. However, Mumu insisted that he wanted his own name. Because this unusual name was the only connection he had with his parents, who abandoned him. Mumu was telling this sad story with a bright expression. And seeing that made Baek Woo-ji's eyes turn red and fill with tears. This kid is so kind. How could such a pure kid take the wrong path? It would never happen. While thinking that, Baek Woo-ji blinked a couple times and held Mumu's hand tightly as he said, The interview is over. Pass. You have passed. Baek Woo-ji had made up his mind. He would protect this kind child from those who would harm him.